seconds, it looks like.
The following is an exclusive presentation of BYU Athletics in association with BYU Broadcasting. It's time to talk BYU football. You're tuned in to the Coordinator's Corner, live from JCW's in Provo, giving you the inside scoop on BYU football from the coaches themselves, JCW's, the Burger Boys. To lead things off, let's head live to your host, the voice of the Cougars, Greg Wrubell.
Good afternoon from JCW's here in Provo. 60 and seen on BYU Football Facebook Live today. We're talking special teams and defense with special teams coordinator Ed Lamb and Coach Elisa Tuiaki, BYU's DC, coming up in the second half hour. So we get right into it with Coach Lamb, BYU's special teams coordinator, assistant head coach, and safeties coach. And BYU coming into this week, Coach, after a loss at Mississippi State to BYU's sixth straight setback. And these are uncharted waters for BYU football going back a number of years. How much does that aspect of it alone kind of weigh on people at this point?
I know it weighs on everybody. There's no coaching guy on the coaching staff. There's no player on the team that didn't come here in part because of the understood legacy that we would be representing. And so to not be living up to our expectations and the expectations of our fans and each other, it feels like a lot of weight on our shoulders right now. And I can't see any player on our team or any coach that would be an exception to that statement.
Could anyone have foreseen struggles to this extent, knowing what you had coming into the year?
Oh, I don't think there's any athlete or coach that really could foresee that on a team. I think possibly a consultant or somebody who wasn't emotionally invested, maybe can pick out some deficiencies and risks and things like that. But I think as coaches and players, we must gear ourselves up to work as hard as we can to win every week. There's got to be a belief there to win, or it's not even worth being around the building.
What of this 1-6 start can you look back and use as a mitigating circumstance or circumstances that led you to where you are?
I would not characterize it as a circumstance. I don't know that I can reasonably answer that question. The closest I can come to it is that quite simply we've failed. We've failed as coaches to prepare our players to be ready to win in the fashion that we should be winning. So if that's I guess that is a circumstance. The circumstances are we've failed. We've failed so far.
From a personnel health standpoint, can that be looked at as a consideration? Because it's a fact that people you've counted on to play and play well for you haven't been there week in, week out.
It's a challenge that every coaching staff goes through. It's those who deal with injuries best as coaches. They find a way in practice, in recruiting, to have the depth necessary to overcome any injury situation, and then find a way in practice to prepare the next best guys. And that can, in a season like this, with the number of injuries we've had, then that could be and should be perhaps taking red shirts off of young players, just always making sure that we have our best 11 guys out there to represent BYU. And again, at this point, the analysis is win or loss, and we've lost, and therefore we failed in that way to overcome the challenges that every team has with injuries.
Whether BYU or any team, the quarterback position is going to be a focal point of any success or failure. And the uncertainty maybe week to week has been a common component maybe as you've gone over these last number of weeks.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, there's uncertainty, there's adjustments, and that's, again, just going back to the coaching piece of it, that's our job. That's our part of our role. We are part of the team. We consider ourselves part of the team. We want to model excellence. We want to model preparation. And our part is not what we do between the lines on Saturday. Our part is preparing the guys to do the right thing between the lines on Saturdays.
How better was Tanner 1 week to the next able to go from, say, the Boise State game to Mississippi State?
I thought he improved significantly. My experience with quarterbacks is really to look at their demeanor, confidence in the pocket, on the sideline, before the game, at halftime, and I felt like that he had taken a significant step from the previous week to this week, and I feel like, if anything, the injury, if it's holding something back right now, it's the fact that he missed some time, and therefore at this point in the season where we should be in terms of understanding what he does do well, what he doesn't do well, formulating the game plan and the 10 guys around him toward his strengths. If anything, that's where we get behind. I think right now he's capable enough to be out there and move around enough to buy a little bit of extra time and be in the pocket. I wouldn't in any way blame any of our inefficiency right now on his injury.
He had his moments in Starkville where he looked like the guy you expect him to be at quarterback.
He did. Yep, he did. And we have to build on those. And we have determined for 123 other guys that he gives us the best opportunity to win. And therefore we have to make that decision correct with victory.
How's Joe Critchlow coming along as a backup?
Oh, Joe's good. We have really high hopes for Joe in the future. The decision by the whole coaching staff really was unanimous. We feel like Tanner gives us the best opportunity to win, and Ty's obviously gets he has the most insight to that. He spends the most time with those guys, and so that becomes, when we make that decision, we have to make that decision right. It's I like to say sometimes it's a little bit tongue in cheek, but there's 100% truth in it. We have to do the thing that works every time. And, so Tanner is the guy. He's the one we chose, and we have to make sure it works.
You guys hoped that the ground game would work better than it did at Mississippi State to give you a more balanced attack. It didn't come to fruition that way.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, we were not able to get our ground game going. There's just, in football history, there's just not a lot of opportunities to win if the team's beaten on the ground. We were beaten on the ground on both sides of the ball.
It's been a long, long time since a team ran like that against BYU. Very uncommon to see someone really get off like that. But at the end of the day, they had more rushing plays than BYU had total plays, and just the inability for the offense to really be on the field enough has become kind of a common theme. That's right.
Yeah, we defensively, the evaluation for us is usually about yards per rush attempt, and that's what we track, and that's what we want to be good at. It's not the defensive the defense's analysis. We don't want to really be worried about how many plays we're on the field or whether our offense is working time of possession or field position or anything like that. Just control the things that we can control, and offensively our staff and players are trained to do the same thing. And the yards per rush were well above where we need them to be.
MSU is around 6 per carry. BYU is under 2 per carry. At 6 versus 2, it's tough to win a game that way.
That's right. Yeah, we want to be, to play elite defense, it's under 3 yards a carry. And if you can keep it to somewhere around 3 yards a carry, then depending on how the rest of the game works out, then that's a reasonable defensive effort.
And for 10 of the last 11 seasons, BYU's rush defense has been between 3 and 4 yards per carry allowed, and one season under 3. And so, but if you're under 4, you're putting yourself usually top 40, top half in the country FBS, and you've been there. BYU's been there for a long, long time that way.
That's right, and that's where BYU should be. We have, with our advantages that we have in recruiting and resources, we should have the players and have the resources to have one of the top defenses in America every year, and that starts with rush defense.
Without pinpointing every minuscule aspect of the game from Saturday, there was a point late third quarter into fourth, where they fumbled the kickoff return. You've got it deep in their territory, down 28-10. That goes to 28-17, and suddenly it feels like a different game, and it never got there.
No, it didn't get there. The great thing is the life of the team, the life that the team showed right there. The excitement on the sidelines was tremendous. Everybody was into it. We had backup guys that were, I could hear them and sense them and feel how much they were into the game. It can be so hard for a guy who's not in the game to be in a season like this and lose game after game and not get, we're not getting young guys into the game that should be getting playing time. Most teams have had a couple of victories with a margin of victory where you can get some other guys in the game and they can feel like, okay, I might not be playing the role I want to play now, but I may in the future, and I'm getting a chance to show. And so just for a moment there to feel that, I hope that that's something that we can aspire to and build on that moment, and recognize that pivotal moment. We failed to convert right there and make it the game that it could have been, but there will be more moments like that in the weeks to come, and I hope that our players recognize that energy, that feeling, that intensity, that moment, and capitalize on it next time.
Of those kinds of players you just referenced, maybe Akile Davis is one of those guys, and he recovers the fumble that I think Andrew Mickelson causes on that kickoff return.
That's right.
And fair enough to say he's one of those guys that could be in that mix you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, tremendous job by Akile. He was thrown in just seconds before that kickoff. We had an injury there just before that kickoff, and so Akile was not playing that position to start the game. And also earlier in the week, Andrew had kind of lagged back on one of our practice kickoffs, and he was about 20 yards behind the action. And I talked to him about, we don't have any kickoff coverage players that are safeties. We are all aggressive to the football, and you're one of those 11 players. And we have assignments. We have some players that are first guys down, some guys that are second guys down, but he was lagging considerably behind. So he was right up in the thick of it. As soon as the runner broke that first line, he was right there to create the hit, put his face mask on the ball, and Don Wuluku and Tanner Jacobson had also kind of laid out and got the guy tripping up a little bit, and then Andrew finished him off, got the ball on the ground, and Akile, from his assignment, which is a long way away from that particular play, just kept pursuing and was able to make a nice play.
As special teams coach, then, rewarding for a few days after a teaching moment with a kickoff guy, having him be involved in a play, and then someone you kind of throw into the mix, respond.
Yes, that's right. I mean, we're looking for every small victory we can in practice, and we're looking to create competitive opportunities in practice that guys can enjoy winning and feel the sting of losing. And we feel like that's got to be a critical piece moving forward. Oftentimes, I think at this time of year, if a team's really rolling, you get away from a lot of contact in practice and away from a lot of competition in practice. It becomes more like walkthroughs most days, and we're not at that point. We can't afford to be at that point. And there are pros and cons to not practicing that way at this point in the year. But there's also got to be an assessment about where we're at as a team and how much we need to improve.
No player or coach came into this season accustomed to this kind of sting of losing you just referenced, but here you are at 6 straight. How has it been to keep the energy and confidence and optimism level where it needs to be for you to have the success you really need to have here in the final 6?
Well, a correction that I'm not excited to make is I have experienced this type of futility. When I was coaching at the University of Idaho, we had a terrible run. And we were all let go, and I know what that feels like. I know what that feels like. Not just to be unemployed and looking for a new job, but I know what it feels like for years to carry that, and I still carry it. All the things that I should have done differently. And my hope is anyway. We don't sit around and talk about this. A locker room and a staff room is really not a place for emotions. It's just not built that way. So we don't sit around and talk about how we feel. But I know that one of my biggest regrets, I'm recognizing the situation that we're in right now, is that we've not been able to do more to help the boys experience victory.
That Idaho State, was Idaho or Idaho State?
Idaho.
Yeah. Situation you're talking about. You say you carried it with you for a long time. Why, and what was the benefit of it?
I still do carry it with me. It's one of the motivators. We get to know the players that we coach really on a personal level. We recruited them and work with them on a day-to-day basis. We see them grow. We see their aspirations. We feel their aspirations. Every time they have success, we have success, and when they have failure, we have failure. And I was the youngest defensive coordinator in Division I football at that time, and that was kind of my what I valued myself on at that time. I felt like, boy, I've really got a great start to my career. But the reality is, I failed. I failed the boys and failed to lead them to victory. And so that there's no way to go back in time and to coach those guys again. But there's a way to learn from that and recognize those situations. And somewhere along the line, I became one of the older coaches on the staff. And so I try to make sure and share that what our responsibility is. It's not, each week we have a personnel meeting. And we evaluate talent, and we make decisions on who plays and who doesn't play. But there needs to be a self-evaluation in there as well. And it's very easy for coaches to get involved with decisions about who's playing well enough and who's not playing well enough to win. Bottom line is, we're not coaching well enough to win right now.
Ed Lamb is with us for this first half hour. We'd like to take your questions at #CCBYU, #CCBYU for Coordinator's Corner. Coach Lamb with us till the bottom of the hour. Coach Tuiaki coming up at 12:30. We're live at JCW's in Provo for the Coordinator's Corner on ESPN 960, BYU Radio, and BYU Football Facebook Live. Back in a minute.
Hey, Dave, pour me some of that.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, that's good. Whoa. What are you doing? It's way too much.
Skilled electricians of BYU at 354 that help Salt Lake City and the state of Utah grow and prosper. Our state-of-the-art apprenticeship program prepares our members for safe, quality electrical construction. Ask for IBEW electricians and get the job done right. The first time, on budget, every time.
The time is now to hire IBEW electricians.
All right, we are at JCW's for the Coordinator's Corner. Special Teams Coordinator, Safeties Coach, and Assistant Head Coach Ed Lamb with us till the bottom of the hour. Coach Tuiaki coming up at 12:30 to 1. To Twitter for some questions, #CCBYU. This is kind of an overarching, maybe Assistant Head Coach type question. Ryan Washburn asks, Bo Hodges looked the best at quarterback until the injury. Could he be the guy going forward once he gets healthy? And you already said earlier that Tanner gives you the best chance to win right now. Bo's not really in the mix because of health. When he gets back in, are we back into a weekly competition thing? Or
new decision. I'm not sure that weekly competition is exactly the right way to phrase it, but yeah, I agree. I think what you're saying is it's a new analysis at that point when he's healthy, and right now he's not, and that's a good question because Bo really did provide a much needed spark, and we were absolutely rolling at the time when he built a 21-7 lead there at Utah State.
And BYU's best offensive game yardage and points came up in Logan. Craig Hershey on #CCBYU says, why is BYU having some trouble getting off the field on 3rd and 4th downs in particular right now? And do you see the same thing?
Yeah, there's a symbiotic relationship there with pass rush and coverage, and our pass rush needs to improve. This week would be a real test of that. This team throws the ball well. But pass rush generally doesn't get an opportunity to shine unless you're stopping the run, and when a team can, here are the three variables. If a team can stop the run, get the pass rush cranked up, and challenge in the secondary, then you become a efficient pass defense. Right now, we're not an efficient pass defense.
We have a question from Jeffrey Butler with hashtag CCBYU. What's being done to help the players stay mentally tough? And which coach, if there is one, is the bad cop and pushes the team right now?
I think that's a good question. I don't think we have a bad cop. We're oriented towards building players. I know that works. I've seen that work. That's my philosophy. I think that a bad cop is only needed when laws are being broken. I'm not saying laws being broken. On the occasion where they have been, team rules infraction, every coach on our staff is the bad cop. But just because a player is losing or failing to point the finger and yell and grimace or browbeat, that's not what we're about.
On the mental toughness part of his question, you've already talked about your job as coaches is to identify those who may not be displaying the appropriate level of toughness, especially in tough times.
That's right, yeah. Mental toughness is built. It's built in the weight room. It's built through observation and rewarding those who show mental toughness. And I think all of our coaches are that, are oriented that way. We will, as a coaching staff over time, grow together more. We will understand more about the head coach's philosophy. We will operate more efficiently with more flow together in time. So I'm not trying to act like that in year 2 we have all the answers as far as developing mental toughness and our good cop, bad cop roles or whatever other analogy is used. But we're working at that diligently.
Question for Coach Lamb from at Chaplain Schumann on Twitter, hashtag CCBYU. Coach Lamb, do you turn to music at all to help you get through a rough patch? You're a musician at heart.
Yeah, I do. We do. We have we've got our music in our safety room. We listen to music while we're watching video. We listen to music in preparation as a defensive staff and have music piped in. And obviously we've got to keep it lower than the conversation so that we can have conversation moving forward. But yeah, we really do. And I like a variety of things. We have ongoing kind of a Pandora mix channel, if you will, where each of our coaches gets to pick a genre, so we get different music coming up.
When you're in the safety room, is there a rotation of people who get to choose the playlist for that day, or are you kind of the boss of the music in the safety room?
They are. Well, yeah. Initially, I just called on guys and realized that some of the guys were getting a little bit embarrassed, teasing each other. And so now I just will walk in the room and say, okay, who's got some guts today? Throw it out there. What do you want to listen to? And then, once in a while, I'll just kind of act the part on the shtick, and if I feel like we've had a poor practice, I say, you guys are listening to music that I want to listen to today, and then it's usually classic rock.
Okay, from meeting room to on field. Before the break here, real quickly, who would you like to maybe ID from the safety room of guys who have been performing well relative to assignments and performance and giving you what you like?
I really like the concentration level that Micah displayed last game. Made a lot of checks in our coverage and improved his concentration from 1 week to the next. Zane Anderson graded out really highly. Those two guys played
very active
most
at
of the game. They both made a lot of tackles. I don't remember the number of tackles that they racked up together. They weren't really challenged, in the passing concepts that Mississippi State threw at us, based on the coverages that we were in. So I wouldn't say that there was an amazing championship effort or anything like that by the safeties, but I felt like that they tackled really well and very soundly, and that was their role on that day.
Okay, a couple more special teams notes and a look ahead to ECU when we come back. It is Greg Wrubell with Ed Lamb as we're talking special teams and other stuff on the Coordinator's Corner. Coach Tuiaki, defensive coordinator, coming up a few moments from now. We're at JCW's in Provo for the Coordinator's Corner. Coach Lamb till the bottom of the hour, Coach Tuiaki at 12:30. Back after this on BYU Radio, ESPN 960, and BYU Football Facebook Live.
Hi, I'm Ed C.
Thank you.
We all know that football is a team sport. No matter how talented a single player may be, he will not be successful unless he's surrounded by a strong team. The same is true if you've been injured in an accident. Trying to go up against the insurance company's team of adjusters and attorneys on your own will likely result in a win. Siegfried Jensen, we can provide the team what you need on your case. Contact us at Siegfried. Not even close.
Cougars, Greg Wrubell.
All right, so 1-6 BYU visiting 1-6 ECU this Saturday night. It'll be a 3 o'clock Mountain Time pregame, 5 o'clock Mountain Time kick for the Cougars and the Pirates. The loser of this game is assured of finishing with a sub-500 regular season record, and BYU wants to be on the plus side of that and get bowl eligible by the end of this thing. And Coach Lamb, that is now the defined finish line. 6 wins in 6 games puts you in bowl eligibility, and that's what you'd like to say for a 13th straight season at BYU, and so it's out there.
That's right, yeah, and you and I talk about it. We've talked about this before, but that's certainly the goal. It needs to be simply stated at the beginning of the week, and then right back to preparing for East Carolina. We're not. There's no way for us to get 6 victories this weekend. There's just 1 victory out there for us, and we have to fight like heck for it.
A couple of special teams tidbits back from this past weekend. The punt game, and Johnny Linehan in particular, did its job for the most part in Starkville.
Oh, yeah. I thought the punt team played really well. There were some heavy rush looks by Mississippi State, and we protected it well, got the punt off, and then some good coverage down the field. We had one opportunity, got Corey Edwards in the game, was a left-footed punter. We rolled left, see if maybe the fake was there, and he made a good decision. Mississippi State had it recognized and well defended, and that ended up being a 45-yard punt that was downed near the 10-yard line of the opponent. So there were some really good pins in there. We got some good field position advantage after our punts.
We don't think of Corey as a rugby punt guy in terms of the look, but you were looking maybe see if the fake was there, and then that's why he kind of shuffled out to his left, I guess.
That's right. Yeah, okay. Yeah. He's not the smoothest guy at that. What we look for in the coaching was give us an adequate punt. Try to extend the operation time, give the guys a chance to get down the field, take a look and see if the fake is there. It's definitely going to be a light rush off of that side. But if they've got it defended, then get the ball down the field and let us cover it. And
that he did. We had Johnny Linehan effective, as we talked about. Corey with the 1. Career-long 38-yard field goal by Rhett Allman. That's a modest number, 38, but it is his career-long. Mm-hmm. And he's been, over the course of his career, percentage-wise, a very effective kicker when you give him the looks.
He has, and hopefully his confidence grew on that kick. That kick would have been good
from 48.
Yeah, it was up near the top of the uprights there. So excellent job by him. I thought the whole field goal unit really executed that really well. The protection was good, and the snap, hold, and kick was all really in good timing. We're looking for 1.35 seconds or less. It was right at that mark.
Now, because it was so deep on the kick, it would have been good from at least 10 yards longer, at least I thought when I saw it. Give you any pause about trotting him out there in longer situations like that?
Oh, he's our best kicker. He's our best chance. Really, the criteria that I always look for is based on practice and how we're kicking. A little bit of criteria for how we're kicking in the pregame on that particular surface. I want to give the head coach an idea when we feel like that we can be 75% or better in terms of our chances. When it starts to get less than 3 out of 4 or 75%, then really it's more 4-down territory. Offense can be successful as well on a 4th down and then lead to the opportunity potentially for 7 points. So I've always felt like that 3 out of 4 is the target that we're getting to, and I feel like we're as we approach right now inside the 30. Between the 25 and the 30 is where we can get, based on that day and based on that week of practice and how we're doing. I think we can get a field goal executed in that mark.
Whether field goal or PAT, Rhett Allman's career percentage numbers are very much near the top of BYU kickers all time in the 2 seasons he's had really to show his thing. All right, we talked about the field goal, or rather the fumble return on the kickoff. That's a special teams play. No special teams penalties in Starkville either. So there were some good things you had in your unit on Saturday.
Some good things. Area to improve is still the punt return, kickoff return game.
Hasn't gotten loose yet.
So close on 2 occasions, and just mistakes, errors, and I just need to do a better job of coaching that. That is going to be a critical piece moving forward for our opportunity as a team to win games, and it's absolutely been unacceptable.
Okay, we will look at ECU a little bit as we head out, and we referenced the passing game earlier, and number 85, Devon Grayson, is an excellent receiver, among the national leaders in yards per game, total yardage, receiving touchdowns, and through the air is where this team moves it.
Yeah, they're fabulous in their passing game. The thing about them is they know what their identity is, and they're committed to getting the ball in the air and committed to getting the ball to their top receivers. So it'll be a real challenge for our guys. It's a game where really I think we ought to see what's coming. Not in terms of particular plays, but we've talked a couple of times about getting geared up for pass rush and getting geared up for pass coverage, and that's so difficult when a team is kind of shoving it down your throat. So It always starts with run defense, and it will this week. But if we can get them into some passing situations, it'll just be a great opportunity for our guys to match up against a very capable team.
Every team has gotten after ECU offensively. That is, their defense allows a lot of numbers, points, and yardage. If this offense is going to turn it around, this kind of has to be the week, right?
Yes, yeah, that's a good way to say it. Every week has to be the week, and this is this week, and I hope there are some opportunities there. I usually don't get around to watching the opponent's defense until Monday evening, and so I haven't taken an honest look at them yet. I have seen a couple of as I'm watching their offense, I see some second and third quarter scores really tight against really good teams, and the final score of those games has been more of a blowout. So I'm wondering if a real key for us is not to keep the hammer down.
Like BYU, ECU's played 2 ranked teams, and like BYU, ECU's got a top 30 strength of schedule right now. So similar teams in similar ways going after it this Saturday. Coach Lamb, we'll see you later in the week.
Thanks, Greg.
All right, that's Ed Lamb. Elisa Tuiaki's next. You're on the Coordinator's Corner on ESPN 960, BYU Radio, and BYU Football Facebook Live. Back after this.
For over 100 years, the skilled electricians of IBEW have helped Salt Lake City and the state of Utah grow and prosper. Our state-of-the-art apprenticeship program prepares our members for safe, quality electrical installation. Ask for IBEW electricians and get the job done right. First time, on budget, every time.
The time is now to hire IBEW electricians.
You know those days when it feels like everything's going your way? Today could be one of those days. And it all starts with Mountain America's Visa Platinum Card. It features low rates, no balance transfer fees, and generous rewards. Plus, you can freeze your card, change the pen, and set travel notifications, all with a touch of a button. It's time for a better day and a better credit card. Apply for your Mountain America Visa Platinum credit card. Or use the app. Funds are prepared
for a touchdown with a DFCU auto loan. Whether you're purchasing a vehicle or want to refinance the one you have, Deseret First provides a variety of flexible auto financing options. To get pre-approved, apply directly with Deseret First online, over the phone at 801-456-7590 or at a branch. If at the dealer, tell them you want your loan with Deseret First. Deseret First Credit Union, serving the LDS community and the exclusive sponsor of the Deseret First Dual Rivalry Series. OAC, membership and eligibility required.
Hello, Bob. Everyone knows it's fast and easy to save thousands when buying or refinancing with Fox Home Loans. But did you know they're giving away a free Hawaiian vacation? Enter for a chance to win a free Hawaiian vacation. Visitors stay on Hawaii by simply dialing pound the 250 on your cell phone and saying Hawaii Vacation. Pound 250 and say Hawaii Vacation. And go Cougars.
We are at JCW's for the Coordinator's Corner. Hashtag CCBYU is what you use to ask a question of Coach Tuiaki here in the second half hour. We are with Coach Elisa Tuiaki, BYU's defensive coordinator and D-line coach for our second half hour. E, good to see you again. Welcome back.
Good to be back. Thank you.
Okay, a couple of aesthetics issues to cover. First up, facial hair. I notice, and people can tell maybe hopefully out there, that you have the start of a mustache going. Is that you called it the rally mustache. Grow it till you win it or keep on going with it?
That's the rally mustache. We got to keep going until we win. I just started it this morning. I just woke up and looked in the mirror. I was like, I need to shave. And then I started shaving. I was like, we're going to keep the mustache on until we can win. And so I let the D-line know. And it sounds like they're all going to jump on board, but we'll see. But this is really just kind of me trying to do something in this situation. We gotta rally and start stringing them together if we can to get to a bowl game.
So we're going to keep it all within the grooming standards, obviously, but the mustache is going to happen. Maybe a little Fu Manchu going for you, do you think?
I don't know how low I can go. I got to check the grooming standards. I don't really know. I've always shaved, but if we can get it Fu Manchu-ish, then we'll go ahead and try to hang them low.
You got the good start of it. You're also wearing a pretty cool cap. It's a PGA Tour Championship ball cap from Eastlake. Tell us how you got that and why it's on.
The championship was during our bye week, and so we were able to go out and do a little bit of recruiting, and then our head coach kicked us out and told us to go and enjoy our family. And so there was somebody that was going down, one of Reno's relatives, and they ended up having a private jet, so we were able to go just for a day, fly in watch it and follow Tony Finau around. Big fan of his. And went to dinner with him at that night, and then after that came back the next morning.
You told me your association with Tony is rather recent?
Just recent, yeah. Just started playing golf really maybe about 4 or 5 years ago, and really got into it. Now I follow it, and just a big fan now.
And what Tony has done within the Polynesian community is really something else. I mean, he's a superstar.
Yeah, yep. He's we're all proud of him in the Polynesian community, but I mean he's doing big things, and so it's fun to follow him.
Let's not forget brother Gipper. I mean, Gipper's got his own set of skills, and then those two brothers are really a unique combo.
Yeah, yep. I was able to actually play with Gipper in the Mortal Life Foundation in St. George. He was on our team, and so we won. But I played with Tony once as well. It's just fun to watch him play. I mean, just unbelievable power and precision. I mean, just watch, even just going to the Tour Championship, I'm just watching all those guys. I mean, the top 30 in the world.
Different level.
It's a different
so
level.
Different.
Yeah, so cool, so fun to be a part of.
And you love the game, you say. No, you got into it recently.
Love the game. Yeah, love the game. I'm not very good. I'm getting better, but
strongest part of your game, what is it?
It's all below average, all across the board. So I don't.
What do you like to do most? Hit it or get on the greens?
like to pull a long stick out and see if I can. It'll go 20 yards on the ground and burn up a couple of worms, or it'll go really far in the air. So it's hit and miss, but just to feel like you can kind of get it out and hit it far is always fun.
All right, this season for BYU, I guess we'll call it hit and miss, with a few more misses than would be desired at this point at 1-6. But you already talked about it. The goal is here to get 6 in 6 and get yourself back to the postseason.
Yeah, we've got, in the middle of it, you got to reassess your goals and figure out where you're at, and shuffle things around on the current team, especially with a lot of guys being down and gone, and we've got to get to 6. That's the goal right now.
Okay, on the lot of guys being down and gone part, coaches are really hesitant to talk a lot about injuries, whether what they are or the effect they're having. But it is a fact. You've had a large number of injuries this year in the 2 deep, among the starters, guys who've missed games. It's a real thing, and every team has to deal with it. But it's really hit you guys hard this year.
It has, and like you mentioned, we don't really talk much about injuries. But last night got the injury report on email and just kind of sat down and read it. It's like page after page after page of just different people going through different things, and some of them season ending, and some of them are still kind of battling, and some of them come back and are playing some snaps but aren't 100%, and we appreciate their toughness, but just it's different when you get a guy that isn't 100%, not confident, as well as playing a lot of snaps on defense, as well as not winning. I mean, all those things start kind of putting a lot of doubt in guys' minds and the way that they play, and we've got to kind of bring it back together and just reassess where we're at and try to do what we're good at.
How much is patience important right now, and are you confident the patience gets rewarded at some point down the line?
Yeah, right now there's a lot of different people have different suggestions, and fortunately and unfortunately for myself, I've been here before, on different teams, and so it's really just sticking to it. You have a plan, you stick to it. You continue to refine what you're doing, and just keep pushing forward. I mean, things like this happen. I just read a recent article on Michigan State. They won 3 last year and looking really bad, and now they've 5-1 and ranked. It's the same thing with TCU. They lost. I think I can't remember what theirs was, not as bad, but teams go through things like that, and especially when you're losing a lot of key players, difficult to win games with a tough schedule, but we've got to find a way to win is the bottom line.
What's the strongest part of your core belief about the ultimate successes this team and this program will have moving forward?
I'm sorry?
What's the strongest part of your core belief when it comes to the success you hope this team does have eventually this season and moving forward? What gives you the most hope for the future?
A lot of youth development really is probably the thing, and it's not just on guys. You probably don't see a lot of them. A lot of it is just on the scout team and guys that we're deciding right now to just we have 7 games left, but we're going to continue to redshirt them and give them a chance to come back and play a full season. So the youth, as well as just some of the guys that are coming back, being able to come back and refine what they're doing and just be better at it.
All right, that's Coach Elisha Tuiaki in our opening segment. More with Coach coming up after this. If you'd like to be with us and join us with a question for Coach Tuiaki, you can give us a Twitter question at #CCBYU, #CCBYUCC for Coordinator's Corner. This is the Coordinator's Corner, live at JCW's in Provo on ESPN 960, BYU Radio, and BYU Football Facebook Live. Back in a bit.
pros at Bailey's Moving and Storage to get your move done right. Every people have. They've been doing it for 65 years. So count on the official mover of BYU football to help you take the stress out of moving so you can focus on that big change. Chat online at Bailey'sAllied.com or call 801-901-3001 to explore your options. Score a touchdown with the EFCU Auto Loan. Whether you're purchasing a vehicle or want to refinance the one you have, Deseret First provides a variety of flexible auto financing options. To get pre-approved, apply directly with Deseret First online. Over the phone at 801-456-7590 or at a branch. If at the dealer, tell them you want your loan with Deseret First. Deseret First Credit Union, serving the LDS community and the exclusive sponsor of the Deseret First School Rivalry Series. OAC, membership eligibility required.
Hey Dave, could you tell me some of that?
Let me see your face. Let me see you. Sorry, Uncle Brax. They were pals. You shouldn't let Dave lay things up for you.
Why?
I'm gonna ask what voice is playing that thing you sing, right?
They fill those things up past the brim. How? Not like those money fast food milkshakes. These things are thick, rich, and oh my gosh, delicious.
Really?
Yeah, plus their sizes are way off. I don't know if they were started by a family at China or something, but the original size to them is like an extra large.
Stop, I'm hot and you're making me hungry. Dave, no, stop.
This is Chris with JCW. It's summertime and it's hot. We're the family owned by JCW to order one of our two delicious thick malts and milkshakes. JCW's quality and a lot of heart. This is one of our 4 locations from South Jordan Provo.
Are you maxed on my local? Are you?
Greg Wrubell.
I am here with Coach Elisa Tuiaki, BYU's defensive coordinator and D-line coach, for our second half of the Coordinator's Corner. Appreciation to Coach Lamb being with us in the first half hour. Next week, it'll be Coach E and Coach Ty Detmer, the OC. Questions from Twitter for Coach Tuiaki. This one coming in from at Chaplain Schumann, Cougar Chaps, for Coach Tuiaki. Outside of BYU, he asks, do you talk to defensive mentors to continue growing professionally and getting ideas for improvement? If so, whom?
I think most of the discussion with mentors and just other people are in the off season, and sometimes we'll kind of call somebody that's doing something similar, and we normally call coaches that we know that have played the team that we're getting ready to play, and just kind of ask what their philosophy was going in and all that stuff. But for the most part, a lot of big schematic changes are in the off season and not during the season.
Okay. This from at BYU Butler. Coach Tuiaki, love these players and the coaches, but please blitz more. We need more momentum and pressure. How do you feel about the blitz and getting extra people on the quarterback?
It's you end up giving up one to get the other, and so if you're going to blitz more, it's got to hit, or else you're giving up more coverage. You know what I mean? And so we've always felt we can keep everything in front of us and make them earn it down the field, and take calculated risks as far as when we're going to blitz. But what we don't want to do is get into situations where we're blitzing, they're holding up in the blitz, and the quarterback's sitting back there, and we don't have too many people covering, because then that's when big plays happen. And so we gave up a couple of big plays in the past, and it's really just a guy getting beat one-on-one or whatever the case is. And we've talked about it in the past, when you're playing man-to-man coverage, you're going to get beat a couple times down the field, and that's what it is. But we not giving up a lot of long runs, but we're kind of getting nickeled and dimed in the run game. And so feel like we're being sound right now in the run game to try to force everything, but we need to be more stout. So
Mississippi State, you hit it right there. I think their long runs 19 yards, but they average 6 yards a carry, and it seemed like pretty much every carry was between like 5 and 10 yards kind of all game long. They really gashed you on the ground. Hasn't happened a lot to you guys. The Air Force was the last team to run for 300 yards against BYU, and that was 7 years ago. So these games don't come around a lot. Mm-hmm. How do you assess the overall defensive performance in Starkville?
We weren't. I mean, that's exactly what it was. We going back and looking at it, there's a couple of schematic things that we felt like we needed to change or just weren't sound or need to be better at. But a lot of it was just alignment, assignment, technique. I mean, just things that we can fix. And so, again, being banged up, not being able to rotate as many D linemen was always, this is the first time really ever that I've seen Shonen Takataki tap his helmet saying, I'm tired, I'm gassed, I need to come out.
Huh.
And we're just, just kind of thin in certain spots, and when you're kind of giving things up in the run game, you're not playing, getting off the field on third downs. Everything just starts to change, right? You're not as comfortable in your technique up front, and so you start trying something different, which gives up a little bit more. And so it's just, we've got to just kind of hone it back in, like I said, and just bring it back and just play our ball, and everybody just trust what they're doing.
Bulldogs made 8 of 13 third downs, kept you on the field quite a bit. For the game, or rather for the season right now, last year, your first year, your defense was on the field an average of about 27 minutes and 20 seconds per game. This year, it's already up over 35 minutes. That's 8 extra minutes of plays per game. And some people say it's about plays more than it is time, but the fact is you're spending a lot more time on the field than you were last year.
Yeah, I mean, we're not getting out of third downs. We're not creating enough takeaways. And that, and as a whole, obviously, when the offense has got to produce. And so in order to do that, when the offense is on the field, we're rested on defense and able to keep the starters in there for longer instead of rotating them. But you're in there for a big majority of the time on defense, and you have to really dig deep, especially against no-huddle teams, into your second, third, fourth string guys, and it always shows on the stats as far as how stout you are on defense and just not being as good.
Now, you want a 3-takeaway day. You got a 3-takeaway day in Starkville. Diane Gomolaku, 2 long INT returns and then a fumble recovered on a kickoff return, which goes for special teams. But either way, that's 3 possessions that now start in the Bulldogs side of the field. And of those 3 possessions, BYU got only 7 points. And points off of those turnovers is as big a deal as the turnovers themselves.
Yeah, I mean, we've got to cash in, and the offense knows that. We've got to capitalize on opportunities that we gain as a team, when we get the ball. And so I know, we talk about that as a staff. Offense got to be better at that and putting up points and sustaining drives and all that, and it all kind of goes together.
Did you think Diane was going to house that first pick?
I was teasing him this morning, as a matter of fact. He got somebody else got a pick on the other side in our practice this morning, and I started yelling, "Follow your blockers." And I was looking for Diane, and I was like, "Follow your blockers," just yelling right at him, looking at him. He's like, "Why are you looking at me?" I was like, "Follow your blockers."
What did you see when you went back and looked at it, either live or went back and looked at it? What was Diane seeing on that one, the first long one?
I don't know what he was seeing. He had the quarterback with an angle, but Corbin was in front blocking for him. So if he would have just stuck a head fake
Stayed on
inside,
the sideline, let Corb take care of the cube that you're talking about,
or just head fake inside,
yeah,
just to slow the quarterback down, and then follow Corbin. Corbin would have blocked for him. There was nobody else.
Instead, he cut it inside.
I'm sure
yeah.
he's kicking himself more than anybody else right now, but that should have been a pick six. Yeah.
It felt like it when he picked it off in the end zone. He was off to the races. Ended up a little short of the end zone, and BYU again had 3 turnovers, putting the offense on the field in a good place, and just 7 points were the outcome. I want to hit linebackers for a little bit. Butch was back after missing a week, but he's playing with a club on an injured hand. Fred left the game and thankfully came back in. Nothing too long term. But man, your linebacking core has been beat up this year, hasn't it?
Yeah, we're going deep into that. Kuje Tapusoa.
You had no Johnny at Mississippi State.
Yeah, he got hurt earlier on in the week and still traveled just to see if he'd be ready, but just wasn't ready to play yet at that point. And so, a lot of guys down the line ended up playing, which was great for them to showcase their talent, but really hurting at that spot right now.
Yeah, Matt Hadley posted last week on social how he's had surgery, and again, another guy that was a safety went to your group and is out at linebacker too, so you've had to go deep, haven't you?
Yeah, and we're got Morgan didn't play. Morgan Unga didn't play this last game, but he'll be back for this one. Grant ended up stepping up and playing, and his time away at receiver kind of showed a little bit as far as just some of the things that he was missing as far as playing linebacker, and so. We just got to continue to get better at that spot.
Chaz is getting some reps. How's he doing?
Chaz got some reps, and he got banged up in the game too.
Yeah.
Yep, and so he didn't finish the game either. So we've got to assess where he's at.
It's been rough at linebacker for sure. We'll take a break. We'll come back with our final segment with Coach Tuiaki. If you'd like to join us on social media, use the hashtag #CCBYU. C for Coordinator's Corner. This is the Coordinator's Corner. We are live at JCW's in Provo every Monday, 12 to 1, here on BYU Radio, ESPN 960, and BYU Football Facebook Live.
We all know that football is a team sport, and no matter how talented a single player may be, he will not be successful unless he's surrounded by a strong team. The same is true if he's an injured international. Trying to go up against the insurance company's team of adjusters and attorneys on your own will not buy for you so you win. Simply Jensen, we can provide the teamwork you need on your case. Contact us at simplyjensen.com to learn more. Go Cougs. BYU Local 354 have helped Salt Lake City and the state of Utah grow and prosper. Our state-of-the-art apprenticeship program prepares our members for safe, quality electrical construction. Ask for IBEW electricians and get the job done right. The first time, on budget, every time.
The time is now to hire IBEW electricians.
You know those days when it feels like everything's going your way? Today could be one of those days. And it all starts with North America's Visa Platinum Credit Card. It features low rates, no balance transfer fees, and generous rewards. Plus, you can freeze your car, change the pen, and set travel notifications, all with the touch of a button. It's time for a better day and a better credit card. Apply for your Mountain America Visa Platinum Credit Card at macu.com or use the app. Loans on approved credit card membership required based on eligibility.
You're tuned into the Coordinator's Corner, live on the new Skill BYU Sports Network. Let's head back to JCW's in Provo and the voice of the Cougars, Greg Wrubell.
I am with BYU's defensive coordinator and D-line coach Elisa Tuiaki. Last segment of the program for today. Back with you next Monday, 12 to 1 with coaches Tuiaki and Detmer as we go defense and offense next week. All right, D-line, your area of responsibility. How's your D-line performing overall? How's it coming along? And improvements that have been made or you'd like to see still be made here moving down the stretch?
Yeah, there's, with the D-line, it's always technique. What they do is fairly simple as far as their assignments. But everything is technique, and it's block reading and reacting. And so, during the game, felt like they were the ones that were costing us. And just kind of challenge them on the sideline about being more stout and all that. We could come back and watch film. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was. There was a lot of good reps, but then just a lot of reps where guys were just tired, just beat, just kind of mauled into the ground, and they were fighting their butts off and doing a good job that way. But the truth is we've got to be more stout, and we've got to get off the field. If we can be stout and get off the field, then we'll have all guys that we need to play with, and they'll be better instead of just playing tired and just kind of surviving instead of attacking.
You've seen SEC O-lines, Pac-12 O-lines, Big Ten O-lines here in the first number of weeks. You're not going to see those lines again this year. Do you expect that to have something to say about how you guys play up front heading down the stretch?
The expectation always still the same, but honestly, and everybody looks at it and sees the difference. I think the biggest difference between conferences, between people you play, is the front, the O-line and the D-line.
Yeah.
The size, and we're playing East Carolina. They're as fast as any team that we've seen. I think from everything that I've seen so far, they have the capability to be explosive on offense with their perimeter guys. Now. The front is good, but they're not what we've seen in the past weeks, and it's just size and athleticism and those types of things. So I think that we match up well. We've got to make sure that we take advantage of matchups that we think we're favorable in.
Now, Ty Detmer can speak to the fact that ECU's defense is allowing 50 points per game and 600 yards per game. So the BYU offense should be expected to do some things this week. Now, from your standpoint, you're looking at the ECU O. Now, ECU is 1-6. They are struggling as a team, but the one thing they can do and do well is sling it. They move it through the air, ton of first downs, a lot of yards, standout wide receiver. What do you like from what you see so far from them?
They're really athletic. I think that they're really athletic, and they do some things schematically that's kind of a cross between what we just saw against Mississippi State as well as from LSU. A lot of the fly sweep stuff they do.
Not so much RPO, though, right?
No, they'll do RPOs as well. The quarterback isn't as capable, but they still do RPOs and a lot of zone read, bubble stuff, and screen slants, all that stuff. So they do everything.
How mobile is he?
He's not as mobile. The last guy was a really good
special.
runner. Yeah, he was a really good runner. He's not a slug, but he can run.
Okay.
They have plays that are meant for him to run. So. Anytime that you have a coordinator that thinks quarterback run game, then you know that they're willing to run the quarterback and even risk hurting him. Then you know that they're being really, really aggressive, which that's what their scheme is.
They go to 85 a lot, the wideout, who's among the nation's leaders in receiving right now.
Yeah, good player. I mean, we haven't been able to sit down as a staff and watch a lot of it, but just watching some of the film, leading up to now, I think that they are very capable. So just going in and thinking, okay, this team is 1-6. Let's see what they have. When I threw the film on, I was like, Well, dude, they're good too. Like, they're really good. They're a good offense, and I haven't seen them on defense, but there's capability of a lot of scoring. And then when you see some of the teams that they've played that are good, like Virginia Tech and those other ones, they're in it all the way in the third quarter, and then the other teams start to pull away late. And so we've got to play well.
Yeah, like you guys, they've played a couple of ranked teams too, and their schedule is nothing to sneeze at. They've had a good schedule too. So there's it's not going to be your problem, but the fans, I hope fans realize, just because they're 1-6 and people have gotten after them quite a bit, they're going to look at this game as an opportunity for them as well. As here comes a struggling BYU team. You got to be aware of that.
Yeah, and they're probably looking the same. We're struggling a little bit on offense, and they're defensively they're struggling. So just matchups wise, we got to make sure that we're stopping them on offense, because they are capable of scoring a lot of points, and our offense has got to score. And that's the bottom line.
How important is it just right now to get a result that you can feel good about? I mean, it's been 6 weeks. It's a hard deal.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't bring the mustache out until now. I think it's time. The rally mustache is out. We've got to go. We've got to string some wins together, and we've got to put this thing together in order for us to go to a bowl game.
We need to see what happens once you get one. But if you got to win, say this Saturday, the chance that it creates some momentum for you, that then you say, okay, now we're back home, get another result, and then this thing becomes real. Because right now 6 wins seems too far away. It's about getting one in Greenville this Saturday.
We got to get this one, and we definitely help out with the confidence and just feeling like we're doing things the right way. Because we are, and we've got to capitalize, and we've got to make sure that everybody's doing their job. But to come away with a win and feel like, okay, the plan's not broken. It's just we've got to refine where we need to refine, and just get the right guys on the field and get things moving. I think that's going to be huge for us.
How much harder is your job right now and Kalani's job at 1-6 than it was, say, at 0-0? Or is it the same job?
It's the same job. There's more people in your ear, especially when you go to church on Sunday. But it's the same job. It's trying to keep the spirits high, and try to make sure that everybody's giving their best efforts, and you don't like to talk about wins and losses, and that's what matters. But really, what matters most is, are you getting the most out of your players? Are they playing hard? Are they giving good effort? Are they doing well in the classroom? And we got to keep that in perspective too. There's a lot of times you start kind of getting down on players who aren't playing well, but are doing really well off the field, and things that you talk about at the beginning of the season. Then when it actually comes down to it, you got to continue to preach it when it matters.
How much does BYU pride kick in, for lack of a better term? Like at BYU, they're not used to losing, say, 6 in a row or being 1-6. That there's each guy comes into it saying, "Now I am BYU, and we as a group, we know we're better than we're showing right now." Is there a fact? Is that a real thing? Can that come into play?
You talking about with the players or the alumni?
Players right now, the guys that are on the team saying, "Yeah, this is us. This is we're better than we're showing," kind of thing.
Yeah, I think they all have that belief, and it's kind of hard because they all believe that, but at the same time, we're asking them to stay in their lane and do their job, And so I think that's probably the harder thing is trust the guy next to you. Let him do his job. You do your job, and we'll do this all together, because it's a team sport. But I definitely no lack of belief on the players' part.
Well, the next chance to show that belief and get a positive result comes Saturday in Greenville. You ever been to that neck of the woods?
Never been there. Never been to Mississippi. A lot of first times.
These are new experiences. All right, we'll see how it goes for the Cougars Saturday at 3 o'clock for our pregame and 5 o'clock for our kick. Those are Mountain Times. 7 o'clock Eastern for the kick back there at Dowdy-Ficklin Stadium in Greenville for BYU and ECU. For Coach Elisa Tuiaki and Ed Lamb, I'm Greg Wrubell. Thanks for tuning in. This has been the Coordinator's Corner live at JCW's in Provo, BYU Radio, ESPN 960, and BYU Football Facebook Live. So long.